Hey Lori, hey John.
Hey, how we doing? Glad to be here.
Hey,
Oh man,
Mikey,
I'm
John.
excited for you guys to meet.
Yeah, I don't know John. I was like, you mentioned John. I was like, oh my gosh, this dude is like
Yeah,
all over the place. I love it.
yeah. John, so we've been working with Lori, who's become queen of Twitter Spaces in a lot of Web3, and um, she's helping us with many things, and she's awesome. She also has a huge emphasis on mental health and mindfulness, and is just an awesome human slash badass. She's a storm chaser, really cool. And Lori, to give you context, I've been friends with John for like 6 months from my degenerate DeFi days. John is the community manager of a project formerly known as Smart Coin, but has rebranded to nftreasure, and another one called Jade under the same umbrella. And he posts some of the best YouTube content I've seen on like mindfulness, mental health, meditation, and like how it specifically pertains to the Web3 space and like dealing with the roller coasters of a coin dropping 90% in a day or like shooting up 4x and you sell at 2x and dealing with the FOMO. Like just such good quality content and such a genuine human who's really intelligent too. So like really happy to have him on.
Well, thanks for that. And yeah, I'm excited to learn. You and I have had some great conversations about your goals and mission in Web3, and I'm excited to learn more from your team and just have, kind of an open conversation about how we navigate these sometimes treacherous waters. Right now you can usually get a pretty good feel for the markets just by opening your crypto Twitter account and reading the emotional tone there, and so there's clearly a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like there's a reason that term FUD has been coined and really popularized by the Web3 movement. And it's because we're still in the wild west of a truly free market. And that means that, in addition to massive 100x gains, we can also have, drawdowns in equal or greater degree. And so learning to ride that volatility without totally wrecking our nervous system is kind of the ultimate challenge and mission should we choose to accept it.
I love that, and I love that you're continually talking about this and making that a big part of just like all the messaging that you're pushing out because it's so important. It applies to all of us. John, in our last chat that we talked for like an hour about this, we were talking about so many of like the factors of dealing with just everything. Like, how do you? I'm thinking of the direct convo we had, and it was around this idea that like every day that you're in NFTs or crypto, you have like 100 decisions to make subconsciously, and that's whether to sell what you have, keep what you have, buy more of what you have, find new opportunities. And that applies to every single investment that you've made, and it's like a huge hidden mental barrier that we often don't think about, and dealing with that takes so much energy slash organization slash structure, and I don't think many people have set up the proper like structure in their lives to deal with all that. It's so new to us.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times when we talk about mindfulness or presence or awareness, there's a huge sector of the tech community that kind of rolls their eyes at that as being something that is too woo-woo. It's not practical enough. It's not grounded enough into the meat and potatoes math of how things actually work. But ultimately all mindfulness is setting yourself up to make good decisions. And I think there's a philosophical argument to be made that decision making itself is a spiritual experience. It's something that separates us from level kind of carnal entities like animals is the ability to run probabilities and to hold multiple probabilities in our mind and weigh them against each other. And I would say that that is about as practical a spiritual experience as you can have. And what happens is that when we get into the big, uncomfortable feelings of fear, uncertainty, doubt, anger, resentment, these all act as blinders that prevent us from seeing all of the available probabilities and massively narrow our decision space. So we think at any point in time that we could think any thought. And that's pretty much a fallacy because we can only think the thoughts that we have access to, and our emotions are kind of throttling what ideas and thoughts and inspirations we have access to. And so one of the things that I have always tried to focus on as a mindfulness coach, as an entrepreneur, as a motivator is, and really as a community liaison, like somebody who's interfacing with hundreds of thousands of people every single week, we have to take a step back and we have to recognize that none of us have a pure emotional filter. Like none of us are seeing all of the data points and none of us are feeling into all of the probabilities. Some of us may be able to get to 80-90% of the probabilities and the data that would allow us to make a good decision, but we're never at 100%. And that means that there's always going to be differing perspectives on how things should be done, and differing layers of emotional filters that prevent people from seeing the quote unquote truth of what's actually happening. And so in a 24-hour, Web3 is a 24-hour marketplace. In Web2, we at least got to go home and kind of turn things off at 5 p.m. and then we were ramping back up the next day. In Web3, it's a global community that's always on. That means that, right now, if somebody's listening in Australia, it's 3 a.m. and they're in a completely different emotional state than I am at noon in Texas, because I'm alert, I'm in work mode. They're, maybe lounging in their bed, not probably, but maybe they've had a couple of drinks. And so all of these things create these emotional filters. Maybe they had an argument with a family member, or they had a bad day at work. These things all affect the lens through which we see and perceive data. They affect our decision space, and they certainly affect our ability to communicate things in a clear fashion.
Sean, you're so spot on. I think what I really like when I talk to you and Lori and other people I respect in the space is I remember that we're just a bunch of humans figuring all this shit out. That element has felt really removed to me being in the space. Everyone has PFPs, and it's just a different, like, we're all in our own zone with new terminology, but I just feel really grounded. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That is what I experienced. So I think these convos are really valuable. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about Anon Twitter, I'm a fully doxed person in an anonymous crypto world, and the interesting thing about that is that there actually is huge value in giving yourself a channel to just vent. And so for a lot of people, Anon Twitter is this place where they can't tell their wife to go and shut the F up if that's what they really feel. And they wouldn't want to say that to their wife, but it doesn't mean that that emotion doesn't exist sometimes. It doesn't mean that sometimes you hate your kids, even though you're supposed to love them. And so a non-crypto is kind of this weird way that it's almost like a kind of therapy or catharsis where people have recognized, oh, there's no consequences for anything I say because nobody knows who I am. And that's not really a good thing in the grander scheme, because these are still we're still human beings and there's still emotions at play here. However, we might be able to argue that it's better that people have crypto Twitter to vent than no outlet at all. And I think one of the things that I've tried to highlight is that there are other ways that you can vent in a more responsible way, that where you're not just projecting your feelings forward, that actually help your decision making. Because for a lot of people, they don't want to do any mindfulness work, spiritual work, woo woo work, whatever we want to call it, therapy. They don't want to engage with that unless there is some kind of selfish benefit. So the good news is there's a huge selfish benefit to doing that work. And the benefit is that you sharpen the blades of your ability to discern information. Right now, we are in a sea of misinformation in crypto and in the world in general. And it has never been more important to make sure that our discernment engine is well oiled. And the way that we do that is we make sure that past traumas and future worries and probabilities are not clouding the present moment, so that we have access to as much decision space as possible. And what is trading the crypto market? It's just a series of decisions. If you want to be successful, I have a video pinned to my Twitter feed right now that says that there's only one thing you know to be successful in crypto and life, and that one thing is discernment. And the way that I define discernment is you need to know what to do and when to do it. And I think we can all agree that if in every moment we knew exactly what to do and when to engage with it, that would equal success. Well, the way that we get there is by sharpening the blades of our discernment and doing the sometimes uncomfortable emotional work of sitting with ourselves and letting some of those past traumas and that trapped energy really come to the surface, release, so that we can shed ourselves of those blinders or filters that prevent us from seeing and communicating clearly.
John, you know that classic example, what you're talking about, I was reminded last night, just struggling through the day, but then I always find myself after 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, like when I start to doom scroll, like it's that same bad habit, right? Like I know I'm not going to get better news. In fact, the market was even worse last night, like at 10, 11, and then I think at 1, it was the worst that it's been. I haven't checked it this morning, but it was like that same pattern, but yet we still go into it because for some reason we like eating crap sandwiches. You know what I mean? And what you were talking about, I knew that last night I had to choose gratitude. That for me, I had to dig into the gratitude. Like, what am I here for? What am I grateful for? Let's step away from the phone. And I did. And I was able to back away from it. I came back later like 2 in the morning, held a space because that's what I always do. And it turned out to be I don't know, maybe it was 12 in the morning, but it was a fun space, and it wasn't dedicated to FUD or anything like that. It was just to bring people together and to fellowship and be with like-minded folks and friends. But that's the same thing. Is I struggle with that also. Is that I get into these habits, and then I just like, this is so delicious, but it's really not because it's got poop in it. And why do I keep eating? Do you remember Clark Griswold in Vacation when the dog pees in the entire box where all the sandwiches are, and he still takes a bite of it. He goes, and when finally the old lady tells him, Clark, the dog peed on the sandwiches, he looks into it and he smells it and he eats it anyway. Isn't that like a bad thing that we tend to do as humans? I mean, it just seems like we're even the bad habits we just love to dive right into sometimes.
Guys,
Yeah.
I want to jump in and kind of reset the room because I see a bunch of new people have joined. So we're here to talk about communication in Web3, and also I want to talk a little bit just about the space and market as a whole, because it's very doom and gloom right now. And going through 2017 and 2018's crash, I built an iron gut of dealing with all these crashes, and I think it's an important part of our conversation. But to give context on why we're here too, we're here on behalf of the Phoenixes, which is the NFT project that we're creating on behalf of HabitNest, which is meant to empower people to help us chase our passions together. And we do that through building great habits. And I think that's worked its way into into the conversation today. So if those topics interest you and you want to be part of an NFT community that values how we feel every day and wants to help people grow these skills and sharpen the blades, as John was saying, of having better tools to deal with everyday situations, then go follow the account. It's up here as a speaker, and I'm also going to post our Discord link, which has been closed, but we're opening it up for this Twitter space specifically because I respect everyone who actually comes and shows up and is part of this conversation, especially on a really difficult week that has been crypto for the last few days. So I'll post that up in a sec. But I think there's so much to talk about, guys. I'm really excited to dive in further. I do just want to touch on the market for a couple minutes because I know there's a lot of new people in the space, and this is something that's new and can be really scary and also confusing and don't know what to make of it. And I just want to point out that this market is really, really irrational, and everything is emotions based. Everything follows one big papa, which is big Bitcoin, and there's just going to be a lot of volatility here, and learning to deal with that is going to be a really important skill set that will serve a lot of people for years to come, because it's not the first time things will go this way. And I want to pass the mic to any of you guys if you have any thoughts here that you think would just be valuable to people.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that anytime there's pain in the marketplace, that one means there's opportunity, but that opportunity comes at the cost of reflection. It's a great time when markets are puking like this to reflect on why you're in the space, where you're hoping to get, and on what timeline, and really what have been the strategies that you're using, and are those strategies working? I see a ton of people in the space, who are hype traders, and that can certainly be profitable, and you can flip NFTs, and you can get in and out of trades really quickly, and if you understand how to do that properly, you can make a lot of money. But it becomes infinitely harder in a marketplace that has bear sentiments, and it it almost makes sense to write out several different strategies that are available to you, even if it's a strategy that you don't necessarily agree with, just so you can run the probability of, okay, what would it look like if I invested in this way that I've never done before? And I think for a lot of people that are used to hype investing, they really need to understand, or see if something more fundamental like a price to earnings, or looking at how these projects are actually valued, like is there some kind of, I was talking to Jade Protocol's fund manager the other day, and he was talking about, we really want to focus on projects that are thinking thoughtfully about value accrual back to its users. And so just understanding where you're hoping to be in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. Like, a lot of people have never written down what their crypto timeline is. And on a 4-year timeline, you can invest in a much more relaxed way than if you need to, pull all your money out in the next 6 months to buy a house. And so understanding what that timeline is allows you to then reverse engineer the strategies that are available to meet that timeline. And the shorter the timeline, the more stressful it's going to be, and the more that you really have to focus on making sure that you're in a sound emotional space, because most traders, make mistakes when they get hyper emotional. And in a bear market, there's not enough wiggle room to make an emotional mistake. So sometimes you don't even make a mistake, and the market moves against you. And so just understanding the reality of what the crypto landscape is right now, and then really reverse engineering it from your timelines, and analyzing, kind of doing a post-mortem of the last 6 to 12 months. Did you actually make any money in crypto? Because I talk a lot to a lot of people who they got so addicted to the adrenaline rush of the markets moving up and down, and then being able to kind of catch some of those waves sometimes, that we tend to think that we're more profitable in crypto than we are. But if we actually keep a spreadsheet and run the numbers, a lot of people would have been better to just buy and hold, or DCA without ever looking at the marketplace. Like trying to trade the marketplace can be, it has the same it triggers the same addictive tendencies as gambling. And so we really have to check in with ourselves and ask, are we seeking out trades because we want to ride the adrenaline of it, or is it actually a sound trade? Does it actually fit our timelines and our financial goals?
Yeah, I'm so with you, John. I want to really jump in here on something that helped me go from, I think, a big constant FOMO feeling of wanting more and feeling really ungrounded, to knowing exactly what I want to do and filling me with certainty, and really doing that no matter how the markets are doing. And that's the idea that I was sitting one day and I was really caught up in feeling like I was behind, seeing people who are like 10, 15xing, me making a couple bad investments, and just feeling terrible about it. And I was really reflecting on that, and I'm like, this is really stupid. And I redefined what I was using as the markers of my success in the space. And for me, I realized the way I want to bring the most value here and self-actualize in the space is finding something that I love and pouring my heart and soul into it. And and also the understanding that no matter how these markets did, my investments did, that I just have this deep, deep promise to myself as a human that I am not going to stop until I'm so happy and fulfilled in my life. And as a really big internal mental decision, because it completely set me free and like gave me the power, instead of being at the mercy of an entire market that is so volatile and how it's doing. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm redefining this, what success looks like on my terms and on my means. And like from that day on, that was in like I think November or December of last year. And from that day on, I have just had such a fire in me. FY, and at the same time, I've dealt with investments that have fallen over 90%. Very not pretty. Um, and others that I have done well with, and it's been all over the place. But like, just my feeling deep down of what I'm building and where I'm going towards, I it has been such a fire in me to like build cool shit in the space, and that has been my like freedom and solace here. um, and I think redefining that, what success looks like for all of us here, whether that's making connections with people, whether that's learning, whether that's being a great investor, whether that's building your dream project, taking the time to be like, what would make me proud of my time here, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, falls so in line with the ethos of our project, which is defining what your passions are, if you can, or being curious about them, and then reverse engineering the path towards them through daily habits and daily routines. And I just get so fired up because like I've done this myself. Like I've seen the impact in the 180 of like taking that even 15-minute window to like just reframe how you're viewing everything. and to restructure things. So I'm really excited to like be talking about this. And again, I posted our Discord link up here if you want to be part of that conversation, and join our community. But I do want to bridge the convo into how this pertains to communication in Web3. And I know that's a really broad term because there's a lot of ways that many of us are communicating here. There's Twitter Spaces, or also different angles that we're communicating from. Like, what makes effective communication for an active community member in a project? What makes great communication for a project leader and founder, or for someone who's like quote unquote an influencer? Like, what does that look like? And I think there's a lot of different angles here that I want to dive into, and that I think all of us up here have different experience with. Um, so I'm curious if anything jumps to mind for you guys to like get that ball rolling. But I have a bunch of thoughts on this just myself as like a project creator. But I do want to pass the mic to y'all and just see if anything comes up.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of building the bridge from the financial markets to what makes a good community member and good communications in a community, I think, a lot of times we get caught up in this idea that the whole market follows Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the grandfather and Bitcoin is the master currency. But really, creativity is the master currency, and it's the only currency that we should be concerned with, because creative effort is what makes the markets move. And so becoming a builder, whether that means you're building a project or you're building up other people, helps you create ancillary opportunities that aren't necessarily directly connected to the marketplace. So, when it comes to effective communication in a large group of people, I always try to ask myself, am I building this person up and clearly communicating the thing that I want communicated? Or am I tearing this person down and acting from an ego place of I'm right, you're wrong? And the latter is always going to end up in turmoil and create ripple effects in a community that are sometimes irreparable. And so building doesn't necessarily have to be I'm running a project, I'm a developer, I'm promoting something. A lot of times building in the space is just supporting other community members in their quest to find new information. And one of the things I made a video about the other day was if you want to work in Web3, it has never been easier to get a job in Web3 because there are so many awesome projects that are all sitting on massive community purses, and they all have had all the project founders are wearing way too many hats. And so if you find 2 to 3 projects, maybe even just focus on 1 to 2 projects that you can intimately learn every detail of that project, be active in the Discord, be active in the Twitter, jump into all the Twitter spaces, become an excellent resource for that project. And that creates this ancillary opportunity where you maybe get paid or get rewarded for that work that you're doing. And even if it doesn't come directly from that project, people start to see you as a good communicator. They start to see you as somebody who thinks through problems, who is creatively oriented towards solutions, and that type of attitude makes you a good decision maker, which makes you a good consultant, which is the most profitable thing that you can be in the space. And so good communication has a ripple effect beyond the person that you're talking to. The interesting thing about Twitter is that I know every time I respond to one person, there's maybe 100 or more people who read that response. So I have to have enough awareness to say, okay, I have to communicate to the person asking the question, but then I also have to communicate to the 100 ancillary people who are going to read that response. And developing that kind of awareness is really a matter of not having knee-jerk reactions. And knee-jerk reactions come from us not from us having past traumas and emotional energy that's trapped in our nervous system because we've bypassed it at some point in our life by just shoving it down. And so then what happens is reality keeps poking us in the gut to bring that to the surface for healing and for release. And so, one of the things in the projects that I'm involved with that I'm always looking for is if somebody has a complaint or a negative comment towards me, that means that there is an opportunity for me to communicate more clearly. And rather than making that person wrong, I can use it as the catalyst to create better communication about what's actually happening in the project, because it doesn't serve my project to blame the person who is saying something bad about it. It just means that I get an opportunity to clarify what's actually happening, and then hundreds of people see that clarification.
John, just let me know when we can hire you because we're ready.
My goal with what we're building at nftreasure, and to some extent with Jade, is to not only provide good information via our fund reports in Jade about what the markets are doing and how we're thinking about the markets, but really with nftreasure to create a kind of street team community that is emotionally aware of what they're doing in the marketplace. Because right now, one of the greatest needs of projects is good community management, and I feel there's an opportunity for us to use our DeFi idle game and marketplace as a way to not only create an interesting reward structure that is sustainable and fed by marketplace fees, but to also create, similar to what you're doing, learn to earn opportunities where, as we onboard NFT projects, we can offer them a service where we have a street team that has gone through a course of effective community management, and we can start to offer our street team and our community as a way for projects to, from day one, have solid, super tight communication and community management. And this is one of the first places that I'm publicly speaking about this kind of new addition to what nftreasure can be. But I really think that the people that are still with us in our community are passionate about building. They're passionate about being able to aggregate community ideas and turn it into something really interesting. And I want to create a mechanism where, above and beyond just being invested in our DeFi loop and accruing revenue from the fees in the marketplace, let's build some. In a bear market, there has to be real utility. So let's run through nftreasure a type of promotional agency that builds community superstars that can then go and be hired by projects, and nftreasure maybe takes a fee of that, or acts as a recruiter, or if nothing else, they're offering some kind of learn to earn that makes it so that if somebody has gone through the nftreasure community liaison course and been certified in that NFT project knows that they are going to have somebody who can be a rock star for their project. And if nothing else, even if there's not a fee attracted to that, it gives NFT projects a reason to come and use our marketplace over other marketplaces. So that's how I think about my project, and any project is, okay, well, in a bear market, if that's what we're in, certainly temporarily we're in bearish sentiment. How do we deliver value that people would pay for, regardless of hype? And my background is running agencies and providing real value to businesses. Well, what do most projects need? Whether they're a DeFi project or an NFT project, they need marketing consulting, they need operational consulting, they need community management. And I know, Mikey, you can attest to this because you're looking for all of those things and building out that team yourself right now. And so I think together, you and I and Lori and all the people on this call start creating resources that really kind of standardize a level of excellence in communication in projects. And my hope is that collectively as a community, we can contribute to the space in a more meaningful way through that effort.
John, I think what you're building has so much value. I think everyone here, if you haven't already, go follow John. Um, he is such a good human, and I'm really excited to tie in or potentially look at opportunities to tie in our worlds, because what our project is about is pairing action with amazing content. That's like the backbone of our whole learn to earn system. And finding a way to do that with native applications in Web3 is going to be really interesting. I think what you're describing of empowering community members is so important. Like, that's the heart of every project here. So I'm really excited to explore that as the coming weeks and months go on. But I do want to reset the room. I see Shira's here. What's up, Shira? Welcome, Shira.
Hi, thanks for having me. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. We've been jumping on a bunch of different topics, but really happy to have you here. Right now, we are going through just exploring different communication um, methods and importances in the space. And I think we are talking about it from a bunch of different angles of like, okay, well, what does great communication look like on on behalf of a community member? How does it look like from a project founder? How does it look like from an influencer, quote unquote? Like, all of us have these different angles and roles that we're interested in and playing. And I think as we're communicating, like, we're creating the culture of what Web3 is. I think it's so important. So I'm really excited to dive in with you. And everyone also here, if you haven't already, go and retweet the space, because we're about to get started. So yeah, Lori, I kind of want to pass the mic to you. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the couple things we've been going over.
Yeah. Oh, is it me? I wasn't sure. You just cut out.
No.
I was like, Lori.
I guess you got rugged. Sorry, Shira. But let me introduce Shira, by the way, in case nobody, or not nobody, but if you don't know who Shira is just a powerhouse, not only in Web3, but she has come from like dominating Web2, co-founder of What's Trending. Like, if you don't know we are Channel Q. Shira, I get the honor to also co-host with you with Chels on Women in Web3 Weekly, and you are just anywhere and everywhere. What I love about you, by the way, and why I'm just so appreciative, you're so approachable in Web3. You've made that kind of you just made it a part of your brand, is that you're just approachable, and you make these, all of these spaces that you host, you lead from the front, but you just make it approachable. And I was wondering, your experience in Web2 is from Web2 to Web3 just seems so seamless. And I think that, you have developed so many. We're talking, how long have you been in the business, Shira? 20 years or so?
Oh my God. Well, I graduated in 2004. So I've been basically working since then.
Right, yeah. Right. So I'd love to pass that to you too. And what John was saying as well, I did just with what John was saying, I just wanted to add, by the way, just the fact that in times of stress, this is where you as a project leader, as a spaces leader, communicator, whatever that would be, and I know Shira would agree with me on this, but this is an opportunity for each and every one of us to really shine. Like, here is where you can set yourself apart from all of these other people who are now panicking, but they're showing that. I think John hinted at being able to channel and to develop those patterns so that people can see and really begin to latch on to what you have to offer. If you have something that's valuable like that, if they're seeing that you're still leading, that you're feeling powerful and strong when times are rough, I think people are going to take note of that. And at least that's what I'm seeing even now. Just holding space and continuing to do that, it is such a powerful tool that you can use, because, quite frankly, we're all feeling the stress. But if you can take advantage of that, that advantage of that opportunity to be there for other people and to harness that power of connection, you're going to really you're going to be focusing on the foundation. Sorry, I'm really tired. I've been up for 24 hours, but you're going to be able to focus on the foundation of why you're here anyway. You know, John was talking about your why, but being able to establish a community, it's got to start with you leading. And people are looking for leaders even now in the midst of the panic. So Shira, I'd love to have you share and to come in at this point, because you do have so much background from Web 2 to Web 3.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I hope you get some rest because sleep is so important. Oh my God. Yeah, for me, it's so interesting because I think if I see something exciting that seems, for me, it's like there's an energy, right? And I felt that with Web 2. I was really early on with the YouTube star culture movement. You know, at the time I was doing a lot of entertainment news and lifestyle reporting. And what happened in every moment that I look back at was very authentic. And I don't even want to use the word seamless. It just, there was a natural flow, right? Where I was curious and intrigued. And then I didn't wait for like the perfect job to come up to start working in the space. It was always like an integration into what I was already doing. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm seeing more of an opportunity, then how do I let go of that chapter and move more into this chapter? So it wasn't just like, oh, black and white, like I'm here and then I'm jumping there. Like there is that transition moment, and you'll like know when, okay, it's time to maybe jump into this new space. You don't need to like quit and leave everything you're doing. A lot of times actually the spaces that you're in really could use your knowledge and what you're learning into from these new spaces. And I've found that that's an added value, and it's helpful for people, right? That's like partially why I do it, is to bridge that gap. And I didn't realize that at the time, moving from, I guess, Web 1 to Web 2, and then even Web 2 to Web 3. But like the more I do it, the more you see cycles in terms of like how you do something, what works, and what the value add is to the communities that you're in, and how do you lean into that. So, you know, for me, I was very burnt out from Web 2, and kind of ended up going more into the wellness space actually. And oddly enough, that's what got me into the Web 3 space, where um, Dino Monks NFT actually hired my company Peace Inside Live to run wellness experiences in their Discord chat. And that was like my first time really participating in an NFT project. Of course, I knew, you know, Gary V. There were a lot of my Web 2 folks like Randy Zuckerberg. And yeah, really those two, Gary V and Randy, were starting to talk about this a lot. And I'd been around the crypto scene too. So, you know, NFTs for me were like a creative entryway even into finances and crypto, even more so, because I didn't really feel like I knew what my what my place was in the crypto space. Like it felt very, once again, math and finances and not very creative. Of course, that's why now where we're at is very exciting. But I started doing, you know, working with the Dino Monks NFT, and then a lot of my Clubhouse folks started moving to Twitter Spaces. And I'll give a shout out to Quasi, who was working with Billionaire Zombies Club and asked me to host their social good day Twitter Spaces. And so I got an airdrop and I hosted that. And I was like, okay, interesting. Like I'm seeing something emerge here, and like I'm going to lean in. And that's when I actually like also happened to speak to Gary Vaynerchuk's digital guy, Nick, who I'd been in touch with already for the past year around like talent management. And I shared the thoughts that were coming up, that I was like noticing some of my ideas pop up, which is like, you know, those are the downloads. It's like the voice that you're hearing that you should trust once in a while, or I would say more than once in a while, and like be able to distinguish between your ego fear thoughts and like the thoughts that are actually giving you signs as to like what you should be taking notice of. So I shared what I was seeing and what I was doing. And he was like, this is amazing. Lean in. Like, Gary's going to be so excited to hear that you're in the space. And like, these are the female projects to check out. Go buy them and like, check out their communities and let me know what you think. Like, come back to me. It's like, that's your homework. And so I did that. And I bought, I think at the time, Flower Girls, Women Weapons, and like Boss Beauties. And I posted on my Twitter. And I was just amazed at the communities that came together from that. And then that's when I was like, okay, there's something here. And that's when I see that energy, I start like, okay, who are the people to follow? Like, how do I add value? What can I do? And for me, it's like, I'm a host and an interviewer, a community organizer. Like, okay, I could right away do that. So I'm going to maybe do a Twitter Spaces. And in the new year, I put together Twitter Spaces that did really well. And I'm like, okay, what if I did this weekly? Right? Like, plant my flag. That happens through consistency. And then, yeah, and it was like integrating it to everything else I do. Like every company I was working with, I was like, what's your Web3 strategy? What are you doing? Like I wasn't scared to ask those questions. So that's kind of how it all, that's a bit of my rant as to like how it all happened and how I approached that. And now, yeah, like I'm a collector, an enthusiast advocate in the space. And then behind the scenes, I consult and advise with companies in the space.
Shira, it's such a small world because we're good friends with Billionaire Zombies Club and Johnny and the whole team there, and they're such good people. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, that, I mean, they were definitely my first taste of the space, and it was really cool to also see the space integrating with or intersecting with impact, and also like the subject matter around equity was something that came up a lot, which is something I really care about. And so I think that, you know, all those things really made me feel like, okay, the space isn't just about, you know, shilling or trading. There's definitely that. And there's, you know, making gains is great, but there's like an underlying culture and community that is really powerful here that can really like do a lot of great stuff. And that's what also really attracted me to the space.
Shira, so I have a question. You were saying how you're leading, um, you work with like organizing a lot of community events and spaces, and I'm just curious, like, have you seen, like, I guess I'm trying to understand what good or effective communication looks like for you, like in those environments, and when projects come together or mix with new people. I know it's a really broad question because communication covers a lot, but
Yeah.
I was just curious if you've seen communities really build bonds through those kinds of engagements, and like if there are any factors that led to that.
Yeah. I mean, I think from being in the space, like I'm not in some of these communities, but you know, like the Friends with Benefits community, that was really cool. Like obviously we see like the bonds of something like that has a fandom like Bored Ape Yacht Club, and now we're in Moonbirds, and like, you know, me and my friend Christine created the Moonbirds women group, and it's like people want to rally around things they care about and they think that are special. Like there's, you know, and then even my BFF, like me and Lori are part of my BFF. And what's cool about that as a founding member is one, you get access to different opportunities in the space, and like they want to actually support you and how you're growing in the space. So we have this Telegram group with these badass women, and I'm like, I'm just blown away at the fact that I could be in a chat with some of these people. And even um, I'm in one with, you know, Scott Beal, who started Laughing Squid, which was like a website around viral videos and memes. He started a private DM group too. So I think there's these like groups within projects and DAOs, but then there's also these DM groups popping up, and you know, that have actually people that have met each other offline, been in other industries together, that are really coming together to connect, and that's leading to offline connection. But in terms of communication, I feel like there's some basic stuff that doesn't change no matter what industry you're in, what space, what time. And I think having consistency and transparency with your communication is key. Like if you're confused as to what you're doing and why, then the communication will probably be confused, right? And you won't be able to rally people around your cause. The more you have clarity and specificity, the better. And you're very clear about what the mission is, what the why is, and how people can get involved, and keep it really simple. I think the more complicated it gets, the harder it is to enroll people in your vision or what you're doing, right? And like making it very like low barrier for entry in terms of getting involved. And then obviously there's different things you could add, like layers to that. But like at the basic level, I think that that is really important. And then, I mean, there's the communication you have around community, and then there's the communication you have around people that work with you to continue building and supporting and maintaining that community. Because we all can't do things alone. Like I that's why Lori and Chels like our Women Web3 Weekly, and even my Alpha Mondays with Manushka Single Serving and iSocial fans. I brought all these people in because I'm like, we're all doing this together. Like, I'm not doing this just to do this alone. Like, that's boring. Like, you know what I mean? And then I also knew as an organizer, like, in order to make this sustainable, and, there's so much burnout, I need support. Like, I know that some weeks I'm not going to always be on it. I know, like, and I know some weeks I'm going to want to step back and maybe not do it. And that's okay. But when you have other people around you that care about the mission and it's aligned with what they want to do as well, there's that encouragement on those days that you're not into it or you need that help. So I think that's really important too. And then coming from a place of that transparency, when you are like, instead of going MIA or being flaky, being very clear, like, hey, I'm having a tough week, or this is happening. This is how I could use support. Like, who's willing to do X, Y, and Z, being very clear about it instead of just dropping the ball and people having expectations and then you not delivering. That's some of my stuff.
Hey, Shira, I'm Amir. I'm one of the co-founders at the Phoenixes and HabitNest, and I just everything you've said has been so spot on, and what you've done in the Web2 space and Web3 space is so amazing. But I wanted to take a step back and go back to that point about when you earlier you said you were talking to or consulting with Web2 companies about what your Web3 strategy is, and the way that this makes this conversation in the space about community and communication so important is Web2 companies have been basically has been spending tons of money and have been trying to get closer with the end consumer, with their community, with their buyers and clients. And the really special thing about Web3 on the communication side is they start off building community before they obviously have a really even like a roadmap or like what their project is going to end up developing when they go to market. So I think it's really cool that you were so early on in like pushing Web2 companies to take that approach, because at the core of what social media and all these ways, all these outlets for communicating to our our buyers or potential customers, at the core of that is community, and and Web3 really, that's the big like differentiator between Web3 and Web2 to me, is building that from the start. And I just think is really like insightful of you to be kind of like pioneering and like pushing Web2 companies, and now they're starting to see the value of it and the importance of it. And that's one of the main reasons why HabitNest really was excited about this opportunity, is because we do have, we've sold 500,000 plus journals. We've done really cool stuff with our community. We have an accountability group on Facebook, but there's nothing really like communicating directly to this audience, which is now kind of like a blend between your consumer and your investor. It's like this weird gray area that everyone is like now kind of, we've made a circle around it, and it's really awesome. So I know I kind of veered off topic, but you said something that really clicked for me, and I wanted to
Yeah, no,
get back to that.
I appreciate that. I always say it's like you need to claim who you are and what you want before people give you the permission to do it. So that means, being very clear of like, what are you doing in this space? What are you providing? What value? Where do you fit? And then starting to communicate that in all the meetings you're in and all the pitches. And obviously, like for me, I'll have a meeting, and a lot of times it is just saying like, hey, where are you all at? And then me saying, oh, this is what I'm up to. And then being in a place where they either are intrigued and like, wow, oh, we might not be in the right place to do this yet, but this is good that we know that you're doing this. So when we're ready, and then I'm like, great. Like, I think it's not about pushing people to be in a place where they should be, or like some people are ready, some people aren't, and that's okay. But consistently when we talk about communication, communicating your brand, being clear about who you are and what you want to bring to the table, like on social, everywhere you're at, whether you have a following or not. But then as you're in meetings, being clear about that too, so that the right people can find you and you could, like, the light bulb moment can turn on when you share those things. Otherwise, people might not know you. You can't like assume anything, and like you have to assume that people don't know who you are, no matter how quote unquote popular or famous, or I don't know, like, stay humble in that way and look at every kind of moment and connection as a way to share who you are and what value you want to bring and how you want to, like, service this space. And once again, the right people will find you or will be intrigued by that to create some sort of opportunity. And at least, if not like not in that moment, perhaps in the future, they'll be like, oh my God, as they're having the conversation, I remember I talked to that person about whatever. We weren't ready then, but let me reach out to that person now. That's how I've maintained and built a career of almost 2 decades and been working consistently as a broadcaster and creator and creative entrepreneur, just simply by putting myself out there and, like, the right people finding me, whether it be now or in the future.
Guys, running this project and growing it, one thing that we're trying to push our community to do really consistently is just show up and engage and be yourself, and give us that 1 or 2 minutes in your day in our ecosystem. And just looking at the turnout here, like, many more people have done that, and I love the info in this space. I want to reset the room a little. Seeing new people have joined, but we're here talking about effective communication in many different angles. And I love our panelists. Like, this has been such a cool conversation. We're here on behalf of the Phoenixes, which is a new Learn to Earn NFT project that we're building out on behalf of HabitNest, as Amir was saying, which is our Web2 brand. And we're here to help people chase their passions, and to do that by building great daily routines and habits that facilitate that structure. So as we're looking at people engaging, for anyone who is retweeting the space, because we want to push it out, we're actually going to be giving out a couple of allow lists. And I'm curious too, if I want to hear if there's anything that you've learned or that has stuck out to you that we've been talking about, and include that in, like, a comment in the quote tweet if it calls to you, because I'm so curious what's resonating with people here. There's been so many different backgrounds on stage, and this is such a big topic. I'm glad we're, like, dissecting it in many ways.
Just to continue the conversation, I loved everything that Shira was talking about, and I think if I were going to boil down my 20-year consulting career into kind of one statement, it's that pain equals opportunity. And that's not just from a financial markets perspective. As a consultant, my job is to properly assess a situation, look at all probabilities, present those probabilities to the client, and then highlight and advise on which probability I feel is the best route forward. So clearly, if I see pain in the marketplace and I can provide clear guidance on how to get out of that pain, as a consultant, that's how I make a paycheck, and that's how I can contribute value to a project. But pain equals opportunity goes far beyond my career, because if I see my girlfriend had a bad day and she's in pain, that's an opportunity for me to hold space for her and to deepen our relationship and our love together by being someone who can be present with her in her pain and not try to fix her, not try to remove that pain, but just create a safe space for her to be in that and know that she's not alone. I can do that for a friend. I can do that for the members of my community. And anytime someone in my Twitter community or Discord community comes at me with a projection or something that immediately triggers some emotional pain in me. Ooh, I didn't like that. Ooh, I kind of hate this person right now. Like hate is a pain, and I really have trained myself to take a bead, do that old anger management practice of counting to 10, and really diving into what is the opportunity here. Because if somebody is in pain and they had the willingness to share that pain with me, it means that there is a route to healing, and the opportunity is for me to figure out how I can be better in my communication, how I can do things differently in the project potentially, or how I can set clear boundaries with my community that actually has them respect me in a better way. Because it's not always about the customer being right. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's good information in a complaint, but sometimes it's about showcasing where the boundary is and respecting yourself enough, and then that creates a ripple effect where other people can hold the same space for themselves, draw those same boundaries, and it creates a tighter knit, stronger community. So for me, pain equals opportunity is what I try to always keep in the forefront of any situation, because rather than projecting that pain forward, I try to integrate it, feel through it, process it, and then recognize the opportunity that lives within it.
My boyfriend was listening and was like, that guy's emotionally intelligent.
John, hearing you speak, I feel like you have a quality that I value a lot, which is you are a self-improving algorithm that is constantly just scanning yourself and the environment and getting better.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's all kinds of analogies and metaphors that we can draw from Web 2 and Web 3 that actually really showcases what we're doing in our body. Like our body is a computer, and our consciousness is the operator. And I think there's an argument to be made that the human body is actually the greatest piece of technology that has ever come to be. And unfortunately, there's not a clearly written owner operator manual, and so we often in the tech space manifest and build things that help give us a better understanding of what we're actually doing psychologically. And when you look at the way that these algorithms work, where your attention goes, information flows. Like the more that you like or comment on controversial, hyper emotional content, the algorithm's just going to give you more and more of that. Well, the exact same thing happens in our personal lives. The more that we tune into drama and fuel drama and throw gasoline on fires, and rather than helping snuff them out and rebuild, like our attention is such a powerful thing, and when we put our attention on anything, it's going to magnify in our lives. And so really, we need, one of the reasons that discernment is such an incredible force that we can wield in our lives is because when we have proper discernment and awareness about all of the things that are showing up in our lives, we can figure out how to tune that reality algorithm similar to how we tune a Web 2 or Web 3 algorithm in order to give us the content that we actually want to consume and that will be uplifting rather than damaging to our lives.
Yeah, I think that what you just said in terms of, well, understanding yourself and show yourself like kindness and compassion and whatever things you want to give to others, like you need to work on that with yourself, and also take responsibility for the energy that you're bringing to the spaces you're in. I think is really important. If you notice you're frustrated, angry, anxious, that's probably the energy you're creating in the space you're in, no matter how much you think you control that or have it under, have it handled. Like, I think that's what we tell ourselves to survive, but like ultimately that's probably still the energy that people are, getting from you, whether you like it or not. You could be the smartest person in the room. They'll still be like, man, but I feel anxious around that person, or there's something off, or I feel like I don't feel safe or warm with that person. And so just like recognizing the person you want to be and like, how can you bring that to the table? But a lot of times that means like understanding what you need to make that happen. So it's like, can you get a bit more sleep? Like, do you need to meditate? Have you been working out? Have you been taking care of yourself? Because like, we talk about this a lot in our spaces, me and Lori, like, sometimes you get to do things. We have a responsibility out of principle, but it's like that balance and that line, knowing when to step back to take care of yourself and your needs so you could better show up for the spaces that you're in.
I love that too. And I think it speaks to the level. Mikey, I hear you use the word accountability quite often. And I'm seeing that in the journals also, that word and that need for accountability, that daily accountability, even if you don't want to, and even if you feel like for me, and having ADHD, it's so easy to fall off that horse, to be like, I can't do the journals anymore. I can't do this challenge anymore. I've blown it. I feel like if I blow it once, it's the party's over, right? Like you can't get back on that horse. And I think it's important to lean into your friends. Like I know that I can lean into Shira and Chels and these other people who I value in the space and who have been there to support me during those times, because I think it's just an essential to be able to have, to have that stability and to have those people that you can be accountable to. It kind of harkens back to the time when I was an assistant pastor. I won't go into that too much, but the need for accountability, even if it's just a small pattern, and knowing that you have someone that you can lean into, especially when you're struggling or especially when you fail. I think it's important to forgive yourself and give you that opportunity to know that you can. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to step off and to fail and to get back up again, though. But to have those people, especially in Web3, there's just so many people everywhere. To have people that you can lean into for that support and for the accountability, for me, has been so important in me continuing, because we're talking about being a constant presence, and that is so important too, to show up and to show people that you're still showing up and you're not just going to be, here for the good stuff and then not here for the bad stuff, or to abandon. The last thing that people want to know is that you're abandoning them. So I love the accountability portion of this, and I think that that's so important. I think that's what Shira and John are both also hinting at in their messages also.
It's such a huge part of my personal success too, and I think it's so important. It makes such a big difference, and for many people, it's something I'm thinking about a lot, of how do we incorporate that. I feel like just in the world, there's never been a good system of like incorporating accountability into existing ecosystems. Anyways, that's a thought that really sticks out to me. But yes, fully agree with you, Lori. And I see Amber's on stage. I brought her up as a speaker. Amber, do you want to jump in?
I would love to. Yeah, this is amazing. I just have to say hi, and yeah, I have like this whole note page of things that I want to make sure I say, because if I don't write stuff down, I will forget. But thank you for letting me come up to speak. And Lori is the reason why I know y'all are in Web3 now, because of her PFP. I had to like verify with her. I was like, wait, is this the HabitNest? Like, as in all of these notebooks that I like, all of these journals I've been using since 2019. Like this, there's no way it could be like the same people. And she's like, no, yeah, it's those people. And I was like, okay, this is insane. And I first want to say, to Mikey, and if that's how you say it, and Amir, I think is up here too. I just wanted to say thank you, for creating, for being HabitNest, right, and creating like these sidekick, like the morning sidekick journal changed my life. I mean, I started using it 4/1/2019, and being someone with ADHD, I've tried everything, every app there is, every journal there is, and none of them I've never gotten through any of them. I've never gotten through the first couple pages of any of them. And I like ran out of books to buy from y'all. I had to start buying like duplicate of the same things because they worked so well. And I never thought I would actually be able to say like to y'all, thank you. And I'm trying not to get like all emotional because it's just like one of those things where there's like a few like moments right in your life where you find a tool that is just so helpful. And for people with ADHD, that is like one of the hardest things is to actually find a tool that like gets us engaged and that we will stick to, right? And so y'all are the reason I have been able to actually create habits that have now become just a part of my daily life. Like I luckily, knock on wood, don't have to really use the journals anymore because it's just become imprinted in my life. Like this is just who I am and what I do. I don't have to keep track of it anymore to remind myself. So that is like just instrumental. And so the fact that y'all are here in Web3 and in NFTs is just blowing my mind so much. And it makes me so happy because what it's doing is it's like proving that Web3 is the place to be, first of all, and that knowing that people like y'all who have helped people in the Web2 or just real life, so much with such great content and just everything. The fact that y'all are here helping build Web3 just gives so much more. Like, I mean, I'm already in it, like fully in it, right? But it's like now I'm like, yes, like it's bringing the best people of Web2 and like, from all over, from all industries, to create this, the future essentially. And I'm just so glad that y'all saw how awesome Lori is and that she has a PFP from y'all and that she's like on your team, because like Lori was the first person to kind of introduce me to the space with her spaces, right? And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't still be here. And I'm sure y'all have heard that a million times, but the fact that y'all are all working together, I'm like, this is like so meant to be in my mind because it just makes me so dang happy. And also, by the way, your Discord is simple and beautiful, and it makes me very happy because it's just like the journals. It's not cluttered. It's not like too much information, and it's like Discord is a lot, y'all, and people, I just love that. And so I just wanted the last thing I wanted to say. And like I said, the reason I'm just throwing this all out there is because I will forget if I don't. But I was like looking through your journals and like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe. And I'm also texting all of my friends that I've showed these journals to, that I've used them. It's changed their life. And they're like, wait, what? Like you're talking to them? Like, I think I'm able to talk to them. Like, isn't this crazy? And so I think it's going to really help bring them into Web3 as well. The fact that like, they know how awesome these journals are and y'all are here. It's like, it's just, yeah, y'all are going to be huge into bringing people into Web3 from Web2. But the last thing I want to say was my favorite part of y'all's books is where you circle every damn day. I remember seeing that in a preview, and that's the reason I bought it, because I just thought that was so clever and so awesome. And it's true. It's like you don't have to get it right every day. You don't have to be perfect every day. But just showing up every damn day is like the key. And yeah, thank you guys.
Holy shit, you made me cry. Oh my god, I'm such a bitch. Wow, first time I cried on a Twitter space. You're fucking awesome. Thank you. Wow.
Wow, well, I'm glad that I was like really nervous to come up here and say all of that, because I was like, these guys probably hear this all the time.
Oh my
I'm just
god,
like
no. I
I
mean,
feel like a fangirl. I'm just like, y'all change my life, but it's
Mikey,
true.
blow your nose for us.
I need a journal. I journal
Oh my
every day.
god, you don't have
Shira.
one.
But I'm
You
excited
know,
to get to know the company too. And Amber, thank you
Um,
so much
yeah.
for your vulnerability.
Yeah. And I did
Um,
not pay
I
Amber to say that. That was amazing. Oh my god, I love Amber.
Amber,
uh,
go
l-
ahead, Shira, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I actually need to jump because I need to head to work, and I need to get in the shower because I haven't had time to shower. So um, I just really appreciate this space, and I totally, this is one of the spaces I would love to hang out in. But yet I get to be responsible to my things that I signed up for in life. So I appreciate you all. And yes, I'll let you go and continue to connect and share the love. And thank you again. And I hope to connect soon for more collaborations. Thank you, Lori, so much also for
Thank you,
connecting your
Shira.
dots.
Thank
Thank
you, Shira.
you. Thank you.
You know, I forgot one thing, y'all. I even wrote it down and I forgot to say it real quick. So I got to say it. Is that I love that y'all are doing a communication space, because I feel like your journals, that is like the core of it, is that it communicates this information so well. And the even like the best parts, honestly, I read through these frequently. Like I go back and read through like the different books that y'all recommend and the different podcasts. Like those are all my favorite books and podcasts now. Like, yeah, it's just such good information. And so the way that y'all are able to communicate how to actually form a habit is like, I feel like something that people have been trying to do for, ever. And it's just, this is the first time that I've ever been able to actually do it. And so it's just kind of like, I wasn't expecting that. Right. And so the fact that y'all are now in here, like talking about communication in Web3, I'm just like, yes, this is such great. Like I've been taking notes. I'm just so over the moon happy that y'all are here. And y'all have probably been here longer than I've known. I just figured this out today, but just welcome. And yeah, y'all are amazing.
Amber, we need to get you involved somehow. I don't know how, but we need to talk more. We just aligned so much. Thank you. That was a really emotional moment for me personally. One, because I love making an impact, and I think I've been seeing that a little with like our secret gift, like blurb. I email with people who are using our journals, but it's rare to have it come so full circle. And I think you're like one of the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people who have been in Web3 and seen our things and seen our journals and products. But it just seeing you so deep in the space, I think just I don't know. This was fucking crazy. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really honored.
Well, thank you for letting me come up and speak. And I agree. It's the fact that Lori was the first kind of connection I made, and the fact that she was the reason I found out y'all are here. Um, it does seem very full circle to me as well. And it's just like the fact that y'all are creating a project, and I just recently started like, co-founding like a project as well. And so it's just, we're also aligned, and Betsy just sent me a heart, and I love her so much because I just recently met her too. And I'm just like, man, I feel like, Web3 and NFTs is just this such a great place where all of these like-minded people are coming together to create something bigger and better than we even realize. It's it's going to take it's going to take those of us who want to actually help people, right? Like that aren't just here to make a quick buck. I mean, yes, making money is nice. But I think when you're here to truly help people, like the money comes. And so that's what I really felt with your journals, is that like, y'all put so much, I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of like time and effort and collaboration that y'all that must have gone into like just all of the amazing content. So if y'all haven't checked these books out, like, and I'm not like, I'm not trying to like show like this, but I'm just saying like, because that's what it feels like these days when you give people compliments that are like, oh,
No,
you're
go
just
ahead,
showing up
Amber.
this.
Go.
Well, I just want to say, like, I have the original. I don't know if it was the original one, but it's like the gold one, like like before there were like different like 2 and 3, and before there were the master. But it's like it's my favorite one still. But y'all, if y'all want to learn how to actually create, because I was not a morning person when I started reading these. I was like being forced to be a morning person. I was like, I got to figure this out, because being ADHD and like, it's just the whole thing. And even if I wasn't ADHD, I still don't like mornings. And I will say, like, okay, is it Mikey or Mickey? How do you say
No, it's Mikey. You had it.
Mikey? Okay. I will say, Mikey, that like okay, this is crazy, y'all, and I'm glad this is being recorded. So I love mornings now, like because of your freaking journal. Like, y'all, this is how much. If you want to like learn how to like love your morning, just go check out the Sidekick journal, like the morning Sidekick journal. It will blow your mind, and And it's one of those things where, yeah, the mornings are my favorite time of the day now. It's the weirdest thing. I never thought that would have happened. But like,
Mikey, we need to get you, Amber. Like like you and I need to do a video together. Just because I know Mikey's gonna be like, no, it's okay. But like you and I, like I need to do a video with you. This is freaking incredible.
yeah,
It's a
if
small
you need a
world too.
testimony, just let me know.
And just for the record, Mikey, by the way, like I'm talking to Amber, she's like, wait a minute, like HabitNest, HabitNest. I'm like,
I'm
yeah.
like, I
She
sent
sends
her a
me a
picture of like all
picture.
of my journals on the, the bookshelf. I'm
I'm
like, you
like,
need all
I'm
of
just
these.
now getting into all this, which is why I love it. But I'm like, damn, Amber, you've got this down. This is great.
It's just life changing. Like there's so many different ones, and there's an app now, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it's, for me, it's just harder sometimes because apps, like I have so many apps, and like, um, and so I need to go check that out again and stuff. But it's something about the physical, having a physical book, you know, just with my brain, like it just helps. So yeah, and I don't buy books often because I just read them on my phone. But anyways, I'll stop rambling about how awesome y'all are. You know how awesome you are. I mean, John's up here with like all of his knowledge, and Lori's up here with like amazingness, and now Betsy's up here with her genius. And yeah, this is just a space full of like amazing genius people, and I love it. And I am just so excited to see what the future holds. And even though the market's going crazy, doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but like this just shows that this is long term, right? This is we're in it for the long haul, and it's not, we're not going anywhere. This is where the future is. There's ups and downs all the time, and but people like y'all are coming in here. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, I'm so excited.
Amber, I'm so down to do a space of like Web 2 companies and startups and brands moving into Web 3. Like, that's such a cool topic. And I think we've been so early at that. Like, I have very rarely seen that happen. There's been a couple, but even then, it's kind of been like create a product and bounce. I'm curious of like the really meaningful integrations, which is what we're going for, of like, we already have this whole ecosystem and products. How do you evolve that into this whole new world where you have so many possibilities with digital assets and creating any mechanism to like incentivize people, reward people, bring people together? So interested in that. I think that's a great space. We should totally do that. um, Guys, I want to bring up or introduce Betsy, who's straight up gangsta. What's up, Betsy?
Hi. um
Well,
can
that's
I
your
have a
official
sorry.
description, right?
Small world.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh
my
my god.
official, that's, yes, I'm here for it. Sorry, Lori, go ahead.
No, I was just saying small world.
Yeah, it's super tiny. I started talking to Lori and to Mikey and to Amber separately in different corners of NFT space. And I do think that, like, I was saying this a little bit earlier during Lori's space, that there's a thing that I think is kind of happening over the last week where it's almost like the topography has been changing, you know? And the people who are positive and here for the right reasons, like, it almost feels like everyone who's not, like, they're getting quieter, or you can see that they're being noisy in a way that's not the kind of noise you want to stand next to. Um, and I feel like I'm looking around going, oh, mountain peak, mountain peak, mountain. Hi, friends. Hi. How are you doing? And I was delighted to like come in and hear Amber speak, because like this is the third time I've been in a space with Amber. We were in a space. She was in our space on Saturday, and she's absolutely delightful also. So I'm just loving the synchronicity of all of this. It's bringing light to my heart.
Amazing, guys. I'm actually in Kansas, and my family's going to lunch soon. So we got a wrap. Um, I hope we get barbecue, but we do have a couple minutes before I gotta go. And I'm just wondering if anyone has closing thoughts or any ideas that were still on their mind about this.
I just wanted to share that it's awesome what you're doing, and I loved hearing Amber's testimonial about the physical journals. I am such a huge believer in physical journals and legal pads and bringing all of that mental energy and grounding it into the real world through something physical. There's a place for apps, there's a place for algorithms, there's a place for that kind of data aggregation, but there's something about physically writing your deepest, most vulnerable thoughts down on paper, and then the awareness, the greater awareness of who you are coming from reviewing those thoughts, that is important. And I think that it's something that if we all did more daily journaling, the natural byproduct of that is better communication. Because if nothing else, you become a better conversationalist because you have new, more fine-tuned and refined language around who you are, what you believe, and what you want to show up for. So I love the idea of daily journaling. And everything that you guys are and gals are doing at HabitNest. Definitely want to find more ways for cross collaboration and ways that I can contribute. One final thought that I wanted to just bring to the space that I think is interesting about the communication platforms that are showing up in Web3, like Clubhouse, like Twitter Spaces, to some extent, places like Discord, is that in real life, I've participated in a group called Authentic Relating or Circling. And in circling, basically, you literally create like a musical chairs style circle where somebody sits in the mush pot, and then you go around the circle and everybody shares kind of their real thoughts about you. Sometimes they're coming from an emotionally good space, and it's good feedback. Sometimes they're projecting onto you, but basically you go around the entire room and you're getting all of this feedback in an authentic way. Like, this is what people actually believe about you. And I'm such a huge believer in gathering feedback. Throughout my entire consulting career, I, on a monthly basis, when I send out my invoice, try to give people the opportunity to tell me what's going wrong. I ask them, what could I be doing better? What did you feel was off this month? Like, getting that kind of feedback from our communities and being open to that kind of feedback allows us to improve and shows us where our edge is at, and it grows our awareness. And journaling is one way to do that with ourselves. Like, basically what the HabitNest journal does, from my understanding, is it kind of asks those questions that maybe I historically have asked to clients of yourself, because sometimes we can be our greatest critic and sometimes we can be our worst critic. And working those thoughts out in a journal is a great way to understand, are we in a self-sabotage downward tailspin, or are we somebody who is lifting ourselves up and confident and clear about what we want and going for it? So I just wanted to share that for me, if you're in one of my communities, I deeply care about what you think about the project and what you think about me, not necessarily because I will agree with it, but because that feedback helps me fine tune how I'm communicating the project and what I'm building in order to contribute more value. So any feedback is welcomed always, and I want to champion that message in the Web3 space that we have to be willing to accept hard criticism, because it's the only way that we can truly innovate beyond where we're at.
I love that, John.
Yeah, I don't have to add to that. I think that was perfect, and I do want to let you go get some food if you're with the fam.
Guys, we had Kansas barbecue yesterday. It was fucking amazing. I can't even tell you. It was so good. I have a picture. Honestly, I'm posting a picture right now. Guys, we don't have good barbecue in LA. It's really, really sad. We pay like...
You should drive on down to Texas and have some barbecue.
Oh, I'm so down. In LA, it's a joke. There's one barbecue place. It's like $23 for 4 ounces of meat, and there's just no comparison. Yeah, Guys, everyone, you can't leave yet because I just posted my picture and I'm about to pin it to the space. So everyone, hold on.
We were gonna let you leave.
No. This is important, Betsy. Okay. There we go. Now let's have a 3-minute closing discussion on the food and we can all go about our day.
That's hilarious. And I now want to know, and I might have asked you this before, where did you grow up that had amazing barbecue?
Me? Never. Well, I had Persian dads making kebab. That was my barbecue. So I've always wanted real, not real, but like American barbecue. So this has been good. I think I have the roots for it. By the way, if anyone is ever in LA, you're all welcome to my Persian family's Shabbat dinners, and we will feed you so much that you cannot move.
All right, closing thought is that I live in Austin, Texas. Barbecue is life here.
Oh my
In
gosh, you're
addition
in
to
Texas.
queso and tacos, I used to live across the street from a barbecue place called Franklin Barbecue. It's sold out every single day. It is like an overnight smoked barbecue covered in an espresso barbecue sauce, and it is to die for. So anybody who wants to come to Austin and enjoy some barbecue, I would highly recommend Franklin Barbecue. And that's my final barbecue thought.
That's so genius, the espresso twist, because you definitely fall into food coma right after those barbecues. So hopefully that counterbalances what's going on there when you overeat.
Oh yeah, so somebody was a barbecue chemist who came up with that, because the meat sweats are real and meat comas are real. So
Yeah,
it is a good chemistry balance.
that's a great point.
I'm gonna say my only contribution to this is I cannot recommend any barbecue places in LA or anywhere else, but I have multiple friends who own Franklin's shirts.
I want it. John, I'm coming. We'll be at Texas soon.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for having me. I'm going to drop off and get some work done. Would love to do more of these spaces and contribute to what you're building at HabitNest. So thanks for everybody who stayed through the whole space. If you're curious about what I'm doing, just check out my Twitter feed, and I'd love to have you in one of our communities. So bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Guys, everyone, go follow all the speakers up here. Like, everyone up here is doing something meaningful, interesting, has a unique voice, and is a great person to follow on our journeys. Looking forward to connecting with all of you. We'll be picking a couple allow list people from the retweets of the space. Our Discord is open. Come hang out and spread some love, y'all.
Thanks again for having me up here. Bye, y'all.
Bye.